Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for our semifinals prediction show. I'm your host, Lauren Khalil. If you like listening to us chat about CrossFit news and everything that's going on in the sport, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. It's the final week of semifinals, and boy, it's been a crazy competitive field for those who are punching their ticket to the CrossFit Games. Today we have Brian Friend, Patrick Clark, and Tommy Marquez all here to give us their strength in depth games ticket predictions. The first 2 weeks, they have been calculated, and Patrick Clark leads the way with 46 points, Brian Friend at 43 points, and Tommy Marquez with 41 points. There's still time to catch up, Tommy. Don't worry.
It's okay. I got them right where I want them. Just laying low, getting ready to attack full steam ahead.
2 more weeks to tabulate. Again, we're starting with strength and depth. Tommy, I do want to start with you. PC and Brian, they both had Emma Tall when we're looking at the women's side as their wild card pick, but you actually ranked her fourth. What made you so confident to put her there in your top 5?
I think in general the programming from strength and depth is pretty straight and narrow, and I think for someone that arguably should have qualified out of the virtual semifinal last year, and then also was able to do so again in a virtual last chance qualifier role. The workouts that we're seeing here remind me a lot of the virtual semis and the last chance qualifier in terms of the complexity or not necessarily going towards the things that we've seen like the torque tank and other stuff like that. So I think just Emma is another year along in progression, and I've liked what I've seen from her over the last year, especially in the face of some adversity with what she had to do with the semifinals and getting the last minute penalty. So overall, I feel fairly confident. She made it through the cut at the games last year. She got to finish the entire competition. I just think that she is more established as a perennial games athlete as far as being able to go to a live competition and perform.
Brian, let's talk about Sam Briggs. All 3 analysts have her in the top 5, but we know that she nearly missed qualifying for a semifinal. What makes you think that she'll fare better in this stage of the game?
If I'm just, being honest, the program. I did not, absent of seeing the programming for this competition, think that I would be picking her in the top 5, and I wound up putting her third here. There's plenty of women in this field that are, possibly fitter than her over the course of a certain amount of tests, depending on what shows up. But in this slate of programming, obviously the strength event is something that the competition has no control over, and it's something she's going to struggle with relative to the field. But the legless rope climb event is great for her. And then you look at the first event, it's basically a pure aerobic test. She might win that. The chipper event has a kettlebell deadlifts, box jump overs, toes to bar. And in the middle of there's some handstand walking, which is not her strong suit, but I think there's enough things around it that she can make up the deficit. The thrusters with the biking and the burpees. The thrusters are moderate weight. She's pretty good at biking and burpees. And then what was the other workout that I'm forgetting is 12 ring, 3 rounds of 12 ring muscle ups. And she basically, there's some pistols and some moderate weight hang snatches in there, but she's amazing at hang snatches. And she's one of the best, if not the best one we've ever seen at ring muscle ups, which is a thing that's going to obviously be a problem for certain other women. So I actually reached out to the competition directors about this, and they had just assured me, because a lot of people have been asking, that these events were programmed well before the field was known, which is the protocol that is supposed to be followed. So it's not on them at all. It's just she's got a great draw of workouts here that she should do really well in. I think she was really probably excited to get the last backfill spot. She's kind of made this statement that if I can qualify in this year where she's going to be 40 to the games as an individual, that would be like a really, really nice finish to her individual career. And I think that she has a really good chance to do it.
Yeah, definitely a story we're watching too. Go ahead, PC.
And she gets to do it at home too, if it does happen in front of that home crowd.
Yeah, somebody that we're definitely going to be watching. PC, when we look at your picks, what about Salve Sigurd? Brian, he doesn't have her at all. Tommy has her as his wild card pick, but you have her actually punching her ticket. What makes you confident that she'll be going to the games this year?
She's on the come up. She's an athlete who's competed at the games before, mainly as a team athlete, and then took some time off. Was training with the Invictus crew, and then she's a full-time student. started training with the program down in Mallorca, and last year she made it, and she made it, I think, 13th in lowlands, and this year, she went all in on CrossFit. She finished, I think, 55th or 56th in the Open, and which made her like the 5th fittest Icelandic woman. So that tells you how, obviously, how strong the field is in Iceland. And then she came back in quarterfinals and finished 8th. So, she has fitness. She's been doing a lot of live competitions. She did Madrid. I think she did the, what was it? The Butcher's Classic as well on a team. So she has a lot of experience this year, and she's only 27 years old. She has a lot of capacity, especially training with that program crew in Mallorca. So I think this is her year, and she's on the come up.
Tommy, Emma McQuaid, that's a name that we are starting to get more familiar with, but what makes her the overall winner for you at the semifinal this weekend?
I just think she's been, on a little bit of a roll, given how she performed at Wadapalooza, qualifying last year and consistently getting better at the higher level type competitions. She had her best finish at the games last year in 12. And it seems like after spending years and years just being right on the cusp and being one of the open stars out of Europe that couldn't get through regionals or sanctionals, just getting through once, during the sanctionals era has been a huge boost to her. She's going to be relatively close, just being down the road. She's trained with Sam Briggs a ton, so her prep for this event, as you saw from Brian, astutely mentioned how good this programming lines up for Sam. So she's had a really good sounding board in order to train and prepare for some of these movements. And I really feel like this is, out of some of the programming we've seen so far, this is the programming that fits the best in terms of like classic CrossFit regionals, like old school regional style programming. Also because I hear she's a fan of Charles Dickens, and every event here is an ode to that author. And being well read myself, I figured why not.
Surrounded
I love it.
by a bunch of scholars.
And Brian, sorry, go ahead, PC. Do you have a fun comment to make?
We are learned men's here. We are learned.
Brian, why do you have Katrin Davidsdottir outside of the podium? It's a name that we're very familiar with at the CrossFit Games. You still have her going there, but why just outside the podium?
Look, I think you can kind of draw on maybe what we saw from Noah Olsen last week for Katrin, is that she's going to do what it takes to get there. But I just think there's some other women that are up and coming in the sport. But I would just like to say, I don't know if I think I'm the only one that has Turi listed as my top 5 here. And I was just thinking, as Tommy was saying, that this is kind of like an old school, regional style programming and format. Turi's finishes at regionals going back to 2012 are 3rd, 5th, 1st, 5th, 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 8th, and then 5th last year. And so I'm looking at this as a great opportunity to close the gap on Patrick.
This is the time where we're going to make it happen. It's anybody's game right now.
Go.
And there's a lot on the line.
Haymakers. Yeah.
I mean, we got to start making some picks from left field, maybe try and shake it up a little bit to try and get some points here, like trying to lean into my bag of tricks and pull out a rabbit and hopefully make up some points from PC making his picks with his eyes closed at a dartboard.
Tommy, you got to make a trip to
Whatever
Vegas
works.
quick and see if you can pick up some like magic tricks from some kind of show.
Hey man, my NHL picks have been hot. Apparently not in fitness though. I don't know.
Moving on to the women's field, PC, we'll start with you as the men. Thank you. PC, 1 and 2, they're identical across the board. Yonakoski in first, Willi George in second. Why? Why does everybody think that these are the top 2 men?
I mean, just their body of work, especially when it comes to Koski. He's been around forever, but I believe he's only 26 years old, but he's been competing at the games since he was 19. And, I wrote a story earlier this year regarding if BKG was the best male CrossFitter of Europe at all time. And the answer is yes, but Koski makes an argument. And Koski, obviously, he had he's just strong all around, especially if there's a swimming event, which there's not a swimming event, but he's filled the gaps in a lot of other a lot of things and a lot of things he was lacking in before. Willi's one of these guys who, he sat out all last year due to a shoulder injury, and then he came back at Dubai and looked great. And then he followed that up with just great performances in the Open and the quarterfinals. And he looks 100% recovered. And he was a guy who was on, again, I'm going to use that word again. He was on the come up prior to this year, and he's looking really good and he's focused. He just recently got married. He just made a move within his own country, and he just looks comfortable right now. And from just talking to people that train with him and that know him, they're saying this is the best Willi George we've seen in a long time. And if that's the case, then it's going to be a pretty good Willi George.
Brian, Tommy and PC have Alex Katulis in their top 5, but he's nowhere to be seen in your top picks. What makes the other people on your roster above him when it comes to qualifying for the games?
Alex is really, really good. I think he's making improvements for sure. The programming is not that bad for him overall, but I just think that some of the other guys are fitter. I've got Hapalainen in there. I've got Yorgos Kaldovis, who I think is just I think he's the top guy in Greece, and Andre Houdet, and I even think Elliot Simmons, who I have listed there, is probably a better bet than Katulis. I think Katulis is a really good pick for a last chance qualifier. It would be exciting to see him make it. It's always nice and he's been knocking on the door for a bit, but I think he's going to be just an outside looking in.
Tommy, for you, what makes Christoph Horvath your wild card pick?
There are a couple pieces of this programming in particular that I think he might just be able to blast. Some of the gymnastics stuff, handstand push-ups, things like that, haven't always been his best. But when he gets on some of the machines, and if he can leverage some of his high power skill, then I think he can potentially win some events. You look at the Carroll complex, he's going to do great. He's tremendously strong. I think he's going to surprise some people in the curiosity shop of event 4, that bigger chipper there. I think relatively speaking, he'll be all right on Lucas rope climb. I haven't seen him on that implement in a while. But also at event 6, if you have the hard times event, which is the 21:15.9 calorie echo bike, bar facing burpee and thrusters, I think that's just short enough overall with that heavy thruster for him that I think he can really empty the tank on that echo bike and maybe shake the tree a little bit for some people. I don't know if he's necessarily going to qualify, but I think as someone who maybe does a little bit better in live competition with some heavier programming for a max lift versus like the online virtual format, he's a guy that I can see kind of rising to the occasion.
PC, Heinrich Hapalainen, he's another one that all 3 of the analysts agree on. Why is he somebody that y'all are confident about?
For me, I think it goes down to Yami. He picked up Yami just prior to the games as his coach last year, and we saw the result. He was a relatively unknown athlete that came in, and he finished in the top 20. And this year, he's been all in. Talking to Yami, when I went to Iceland and talking to him at in Amsterdam at the Lowlands, he said Heinrich's been just crushing it. And he's been actually training with Mikko Salo and as well as Jankowski as well, doing some training with them as well, just trying to get some volume with some high level athletes. And he just looks good, and he's not very he's not really well known, but I think him finishing in the top 5 here, it's gonna there's a little O'Keefe action. We should see who's O'Keefe picking. But
that's the question.
That's the question there. But yeah, and plus, the guy's he's a skater boy too, and I gotta give some love to those guys that loves the thrash.
Skater boy. Brian, you briefly mentioned Elliot Simmons. He is in for your wild card. What about this weekend gives him a chance to head to the games or even head to the last chance qualifier?
I haven't checked in with Elliot or anything like that, but I have a feeling that he's kind of competing free this weekend, where he's just coming in and wants to see where his fitness is at. And I think that he, similar to Sam Briggs, will thrive off of just being on home turf soil there. The crowd will be behind him. We haven't seen him really excel or rise to the top of the men's field in Europe in a couple of years, but I think like a little bit different than Christoph, but similarly, there'll be a few events where he's able to have some influential finishes, just kind of be lurking in the hunt of the top 10 throughout the weekend. And if any of these guys happen to, slip up here or there, he's the kind of guy that can maybe slip into a last chance qualifier or even the last game's qualifying spot.
All right, boys, it is the final week to make up the points or PC keep the lead. We'll find out what happens. Again, it's been a fun time. Our semifinals predictions. We'll see you guys next time.